It's Hot 93.7, hot937.com. Biggmann here, voices on your airwaves, man. And you know what we do every single week. We bring the real, all right? We talk about what's going on in the community, something positive. Most of these things you might not even know about. I know sometimes we say, you know, we don't have this resource, we don't have that resource. And sometimes the resource is right there, but it hasn't been highlighted or the information hasn't gotten to you yet. And so I really want to use this platform so that we can get the resources that we need. And some person may have a need or a desire. They may be going through something and they may need some people to talk to, and they may think that no one understands their situation. All right. And in some instances, what we want to prove to you is that your right now is not your forever. And I always tell people, you know, you might be going through something right now, and it might seem like all the chips are stacked against you. And then when you dig down a little deeper internally, you'll find that power to move forward and do things that you never thought you'd be able to do. All right. And so I wanted to bring some brothers on the phone, and these brothers are doing something, you know, that we need to know about. And what's happened is one brother has inspired another brother, and that's the blessing being passed on to someone else. And now these brothers are in two different places here in Connecticut, but they're blessing people the same type of way. And so it was important to have them on the line, first of all, to know the resources that are available to some people who may be going through certain struggles. Secondly, to motivate you to understand that, you know what, you never know where your help is coming from. You never know where your motivation is coming from. And sometimes the person who you don't know right now, who you might meet tomorrow or next week, could be the person that's going to change your life. All right. And so I have a brother Daee on the line. Also, I have Edward Andrews, who's known as Brooklyn Boo. All right. And I'm going to let these brothers tell their story. I don't know if you want to start first, Daee, or if you want to start first, Boo. Either one.
Yes, sir. First of all, let me just open up in the name of God, the beneficent, the merciful. I greet the entire listening audience with greeting words of peace be unto you. And let me say, in the spirit of the Million Man March, which today is the anniversary, that let us continue to allow our spirits to be in unity and love for one another in our community, and let the violence stop and come to a halt. I'm asking all my young brothers, man, with sincere love and sincerity, to please put your guns down and let not just today and this weekend go by where we don't harm one another, but let from now on go by where we begin to take on the mindset that we don't want to harm one another when others are trying to harm us.
Mm-hmm.
Let me begin by saying that I'm grateful to God to be here today, because I know at one point in my life I was a part of the problem, and God has allowed me to participate in developing some viable solutions. And He had mercy on me to change my life, man, to be a reflection of what we could be and what our potential really is, and not the things that negatively shaped our perception of who we are and how we view others. And that happened to me while I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated for about 17 and a half years in the penitentiary and in Connecticut. And in the first quarter of that process, something happened to me where I had an awakening, and that was because of another brother who had 80 years, Brother Floyd X, who was, giving me information about Islam, and I wasn't ready. And it's each one teach one. And that brother was talking to a lot of young guys, because I went in with that wave in the 80s with a lot of young brothers from Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, Waterbury, began to get a lot of time, 25, 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And as we sat in there, a lot of us just took the mindset that we had from the street to the penitentiary. But the good thing was we were removed from the environment, which allowed us, if we could get that moment of clarity, and we had something else to put into our minds, to pour into our vessels, that it would transform the way we think and turn us back to our original nature. Because by nature, we are not criminals. We are not thugs. That's not who we are. That's something that we took on. That's our identity that we took on.
Mm-hmm.
But it allowed us to have that time and space where we could get some clarity. And that's what happened for me. And I thank God that I was able to begin to transform my life by taking in new information. And, if you change the way a person thinks, you change the way they behave.
Right.
And then eventually I ended up coming out here to society and doing some of the things that we already were doing in prison, which is trying to wake people up cognitively and giving them that spiritual awakening for brothers to realize that the way you've been doing things is not who you are and not what you should be doing. And then for the past 11 years, I've been involved. I've been out for 15 years. I've been involved in reentry through a program at Family Reentry called the Fresh Start Program, which was originated by a brother named Kenny Jackson and Steve Lanza. And they brought Fred Hodges and brought myself on. And that's how I started going back into prisons for the past 11 years as a volunteer Islamic chaplain and also as a reentry coordinator to go in and facilitate pre-release groups, because we realized how important it was to get people to start thinking about change before they come out. Mm-hmm. Because if you come out and you don't change your mind, only thing going to change is your address. You're going to go from the street to the penitentiary and then back to the street with the same mindset. So we knew how important it was when you had a brother in a place of seclusion to begin to give him some things that he could begin to contemplate and assess his life and look at his life and say, man, wait a minute, maybe there's something else that I could do. Maybe there's something else that I could be. And when he's in that space and time, you can give him that information that could begin that transformation process for him to transform back to his original self, not into somebody else. Mm. So I just wanted to stop right there and say that's the journey that led me on the journey of going back into prisons where I met Brother Edward Andrews, as we call Boo, our brother Boo. And he had a plan, and I'm proud of the work that he's done out here since he's been out, man. He's been trying to give back. And for all of us who have committed violent offenses against our own people or any human being, I want to take this opportunity to apologize to all of our communities in Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury, New Britain. Wherever you find us at, our community is the same, just a different name. We have been hurting ourselves. And I apologize for that hurt because I thought I was a king and I found out I was a pawn. And that was the most hurtful feeling because a lot of us think, yo, I'm an OG, I was doing this and that. Man, we was a pawn in the game for somebody else's plan to destroy our community. And that's a humiliating feeling when you find that out. But it puts it in perspective for you, and it drives you to take that energy of feeling ashamed of that and transform that energy into motivation to become a part of the solution to change those issues in our community. And I thank you, my dear brother, for giving me this space and time to be able to share that.
Wow. No doubt. It's Hot 93.7, hot937.com. Biggmann here, voices on your airwaves. I have the brother Daee on the line, and he's also, I have Edward Andrews. Most people know him as Brooklyn Boo, and these guys are doing incredible work out here in the community, and I felt like it was necessary. First of all, Daee, before we get Boo on to talk about what he's doing, you're located where?
Yes, we're located in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and presently I'm working for Family Reentry, who has been involved in designing a real innovative reentry model. You know, a lot of people are doing reentry now, and I'm grateful and appreciate all the work everybody's doing. But a long time ago, Kenny Jackson and Steve Lanza went out to about 14 years ago, 15 years ago. They went out to San Francisco to the Delancey Street program and saw what they were doing out there, and they took components from that program and brought it back and started Fresh Start. And it was the rebirth of reentry. We're having successful formerly incarcerated people involved in the process of facilitating reentry for others who are coming out. And it's very important that we, the people who've been there, done that, be involved in that process of helping others. And Kenny was one of the first ones, to really have a major voice at the table to demand that we be at that table to facilitate the process. And it's been a lifelong journey. And reentry is something that just doesn't end in here. Even when they cut the funding, it doesn't end with funding cuts. It ends with every person taking the responsibility to carry it on. And we've had situations where we had brothers come out of penitentiary, man, and we've even had no funding certain programs anymore. We still tried our best to serve their needs. If we had to buy a brother ID out of our pocket, Brother Fred Hodges and brothers like that, you know, and there's many people involved in this struggle that I know I don't have time to name, but I appreciate every person everywhere for what they're doing. People like Larice Harvey, who kind of like spearheaded that advocacy thing in Connecticut, you know, a while ago.
Wow, it's Hot 93.7, hot937.com. Voices on your airwaves. Biggmann here. I have Brother Daee on the line. Also, Edward Andrews, who's known as Brooklyn Boo. Now, let's talk about your journey and how you met this brother and the program that you have going on now and what motivated you to start this program.
Yeah, thank you for having me too, big man.
All right.
I wound up in prison in 1993. 1993 was going trial for 2 murders, and I noticed when I was in my cell one day, man, you know, used to cry a lot on holidays like Christmas, especially, you know that I'm not even gonna see the sun no more. And I know that all that stuff that I had, all that flashy stuff, underneath that flashy stuff was still an insecure boy. And so my intervention came while I was in prison. When I was in prison, you know, it's too much to tell, man. It was a whole lot going on. But I felt a little peace when I see brothers like Daee coming inside, Brother Elmer, and giving us hope. And with that hope, I took that along with me, know that, you know, it's going to be one day perhaps that the door is going to open. Many times I tried to get out early, man, but they told me no. And I knew one day they was going to say yes. And my time had came in 2016, about 4:39 a.m. So what disgusted me in my heart? What disgusted me in my heart when I was seeing teachers talking about my population couldn't read or write or had like a 3rd grade reading level. That disgusted me, man. I was like, and we walking around when I was pants sagging or attacking one another, humiliating one another. In some cases, you know, guys was getting raped in there, right, Daee?
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
And I said, man, I want to go against that no more. I want to be a part of that solution. And so when that solution was, I found my niche, being a mentor for at least 18 years and being an academic tutor for like 15. And I took that all the way out here in Hartford for me. When I got out of Hartford, I didn't know no one. I didn't know no one, so I'm working on faith, I'm working on hope, and I'm working with motivation that I'm going to carry out and still try to help make a difference in other lives the way the help came to me. And so I developed a program called SCRIPT. SCRIPT stands for Second Chance Reentry Initiative Program. Remind you, when I came out, it was a struggle. What I learned from Daee and Fred, they call them reentry hurdles. One of them was getting jobs, or a good paying job, and everybody was just shutting me down. I mean, I went to Amazon, and when they heard about my background, they damn near stood up and escorted me out. You talk about a person that was empty. Mm-hmm. I was an empty felon. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I just kept on being denied. And the Restaurant Depot was the first one that, you know, opened the doors for me. But I always had this niche inside of me that said, you know what, things could be a lot better, man. So by the grace of God, I got a job being a case manager. And when I was a case manager, they laid me off because of, you know, budget. Mm-hmm. So now I'm lost. I was lost, man. But today, all of those struggles I went through, I implemented in a program called SCRIPT to let guys know that we here working hand in hand with you, to let you go through all of those hurdles and those emotions. Because after doing 22 years in prison, when we come out here, people can see us, family can see us, your community can see us, but they don't understand what you're going through psychologically or emotional. And sometimes they even enable you. And this is like paths that make you go right back to prison. I know there was no more options for me being, you know, all those turn downs, all those rejections. And I just kept on going with my gut, man. And I was successful because of the Hartford Foundation had favored me and gave me this first chance to open up the SCRIPT, which is a nonprofit organization, an educational and social service institutions, which addresses a lot what I call the invisible barriers. You know, before I went to prison, and Daee, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong, before you went to prison, was you suffering from something that it wasn't ever addressed, like what you was witnesses before you was a kid?
Yeah, well, the environment that we grow up in, we accept what we see as normal. And when you're a man, and that's one of the things that you talk about in your curriculum with this hyper-masculinity, man, as men, we don't know how to process what we feel. So a lot of times the hurt that we feel as young men, it comes out in the form of anger. And a lot of brothers, besides witnessing violence at an early age, sometimes you experience personal hurt. Like some of us have parents who was in prison. I know I'm third generation incarceration, man, and my grandparents raised me, and my mother was incarcerated, and sometimes I remember going to see my mother as a kid, and kids' brains are not fully developed like adults, so you don't process information the same way. So that we see my mother in the penitentiary and then leave out the door as a kid, you wondering, well, why she ain't leaving with us? You don't understand nothing about she in the penitentiary because she committed a crime, there's consequences connected to actions. You just feeling like she ain't coming out the same door with us because she don't want to be with us. She must don't want me. She must don't care. Mm-hmm. And that ain't a conversation that you have, but that's a subconscious conversation you have. And how do you process that hurt and pain? You might process that in the form of anger, bitterness, and frustration. And then we see why it's so easy, why we kill one another on top of the self-hatred that we have for one another.
Mm. Exactly. And I know, Biggmann, you said you from Hartford, so you've seen a lot of the violence and the trauma that goes on, but those is never being addressed. Mm-hmm. And those will be what we call invisible barriers, what script addresses. I address the effects of hypermasculinity, emotional regulations and coping skills, psychological detox, emotion, anxiety, self-compassion. Like, I'm trying to make us rediscover who we really are. So those is crucial to address, because if you go to many of the halfway houses or programs, they only want you to concentrate on jobs and housing, but nobody is addressing, the inside of what we're going through, that trauma, and so there's a significant treatment gap that exists for us incarcerated men with lifetime traumatic experiences. And only time that come up is when, we see the results of when it come up. And that's why our populations is always ended up with 3 places: jail, institutions, or death.
It's Hot 93.7, hot937.com. Biggmann here. I have Brother Daee on the line. Also, Brooklyn Boo, Edward Andrews, all right? Here's what's important about what both of you guys are saying right now. For the last few weeks on the show, and it wasn't even intentional, the conversation has shifted. Maybe a couple weeks ago, I had a doctor on the line. It was him and his daughter, and they have a facility in Hartford that addresses mental health in the black community. And the show before that, we were talking about the need for addressing mental health and what's a form of PTSD. And last week, the same thing. And now here we are talking about the same type of thing. And so there's an underlying message here that we need to address. Most of us in the inner city growing up, we don't ever think, we always look at mental health, meaning, if you have to go and see somebody, if you go have to seek counseling, then they associate that with, oh, he's crazy. There's something wrong with him. No, we need to find out why certain things are happening and why we feel a certain way and why we're numb to certain things. That needs to be addressed so that we can grow. It's called a part of growth. And until we can identify that and until we can embrace it, it's just going to be the same cycle going on over and over and over again. So it's really important and it's key, the points that you guys are touching on right now. And I really commend both of you. First of all, being able to identify it yourself and know that something needs to be done. That's the most difficult part for anybody. And I think, most times people think, okay, you the dude on the radio, you don't understand. I'm like, nah, I understand. I understand because, it's all about choices that you make. Each one of you brothers, when you came home, you could have went back to the streets. You made a choice not to. And it was something that clicked a light bulb in you that said, you know what? Nah, I'm not giving them no more of my life. I'm not giving them no more. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to help other brothers not give them any more of their lives either. But we need to address the elephant in the room. And so I think it's key and it's very important. And this is the reason why I wanted to have, because I got a call the other night from from Boo. I got a call the other night from him, and it was funny because it was an uncomfortable call for him because he doesn't normally call people, out the blue. I know people don't like these random calls from people they don't know. But me, I'm in a place of I want real people on this show. I want real people on the show to talk about real things. And so if you got to call me out the blue, call me. I'm ready to have the conversation. And within 2 minutes of talking to him, I was like, I got to have you on. I got to have you on. And he was like, hold up, I got to tell you the rest. I had heard enough in 2 minutes to know that he needed to be on the show. And I felt the passion in what he was talking about. And I was able to read between the lines of what he was talking about and the program that he had in his history. And for him to put together that program, I understood that the story was something that needed to be on these airwaves. And then when he told me we had to have Daee on the call, I said, let's go. Let's go. So this is why it's important to have you brothers on the call, because I want this to be more than just us talking. I want somebody to feel this in their soul. That was the important piece of having you guys on the call today, because I wanted somebody to feel it and be inspired by it. Now, with that being said, let's get into the program. Let's get into the script program and dig a little deeper into that, because I'm sure that people want to know. And before this is all over, I want you guys to put the information out there for people to reach you and all of that, because it's important that people who are going through some things know exactly how to get in touch with you. And we want to get as many people, checking out your programs as possible. Those people who need the help and they don't know where to turn to, we found a place for them to turn to.
When I came home, to being inside of a halfway house and then turn around and work it inside of a halfway house, I see there was components that was missing that could be beneficial if we would adopt a program that will provide those type of services. And that's why script came up to want to make a change and not follow so many other trends. Studies was conducted, don't get me wrong. I discovered over 60,000 Connecticut residents was behind bars or under some type of criminal justice supervision. Probation, they got 41,000. Parole, I think it's around 3,200. And the prison, I think, is up to 14,000. And in regards to the incarceration, us blacks, it's 2,260 of us in there. Hispanics 1,195, and the whites is 241. So now that makes me think that what's going on? Prison and transitional living homes, gentrification, supervision, that's not the solution. None of that really works. So if those trauma experiences is not addressed, then that's when self-hatred come into existence. And if we look out our window, we'll see the results of what those self-hatreds how we killing each other, like Daee said. So I wanted to like that. All of the poverty, I don't care if you're in Bridgeport, I don't care if you're in New Haven, Hartford, whatever the case be, I call it drinking. We all drinking from the same well, so to speak. And that well consists of miseducation, urban trauma, a sprinkle of the William Lynch experiment, and now this rapist. When we going to just come to the conscience to know that something is definitely wrong? And so this is when script comes in at. I try to remove the layers of what the trauma causes. And by the way, you have Dr. Akbar, who partner with us with urban trauma, and my peoples who do the clinical work, because it's crucial to address these illness to move forward. Because a guy could get a job when he come home from prison. He could get a job, and I'll bear witness to this as being his case manager. He could get a job, and then when he get a job, he move out and get his own place. And the same day he get his own place, he dies from overdose. Because he never was, those issues was never addressed of what he going through psychological. Like, people can see us, we out here. It's no secret. Our existence is out here, but you can't even imagine what one going through psychological or emotionally. Remember, I was accustomed to a certain system for 22 years. The same keys, the same child being called, the same garbage food, And then I come out here to a new system where it's totally different. I didn't even know how to put a bus pass in the bus. Before I left prison, we was carrying beepers and not all this technology. So my struggle was, those were some of the hurdles. I was accepted to Manchester Community College. I shed a tear, and the tear was because I felt I didn't belong there. Why? Because of what this label theory they put on us if you're young, black, and you're a criminal. I'm like, these kids with these books, and they don't even know who around them. And I cry. And Miss Diane Jones, who I call the queen of reentry, you know, she was one of those who was there for me as I was released, Miss Diane Jones and Miss Beaver Mingle. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing work for OPP, and I got a letter in the mail after that from the president of Springfield College saying that she would like for me to go inside of there because she read my story. And I was one of those who, by the grace of God, graduated with my bachelor's and on my way for my master's. But my program, it addresses all those hurdles that I suffer from, I've seen others suffer from, and I'm trying to address that. So once we address those, everybody could rediscover who they really are. And that's what my program. That's what the program does.
Wow.
It's not a preaching program. I don't preach. I don't even tell guys not to put down their guns. I ask them why they lifting them up. I want to get into let you know the psychological, the thought pattern, though, or what are we train or program to go and against one another. I want you to try to see that clearly, where that comes from. That's not really us.
Wow. This is a very powerful conversation, man. It's Voices. It's Hot 93.7, hot937.com. Biggmann here. I have a brother Daee on the line, and I also have Brooklyn Boo on the line. Fresh Start program and the Script program. These are both key programs here in the community because just like you guys have witnessed it, I've witnessed it as well. I've had many discussions on the airwaves, even before the Voices show, where people would call up and say, you know, what is there, or how do you tell someone who's been incarcerated for years and they have no experience? You're telling them to get a job, but they don't qualify for anything. And when people find out their history, you know, their history of why they were incarcerated or even that they were incarcerated, then they're immediately disqualified from the consideration for those jobs. And it became discouraging. And so to hear that these programs exist, now that answers a question that, you know, even I had. I mean, because I had no answers for brothers when they would call up and challenge different things that I was saying. Is, you know, look, I have a record, man. I've done this. I've done everything that you said to do, and I get doors slammed in my face. And so at that point, you know, I was like, wow, I don't know what answer to give that brother. And that's why it was so important to have you guys on the line, because this answers that need. This answers that need. There's always a need in the community, and instead of us pointing a finger and saying, oh, they should do this, they should do that, you guys realized when you were pointing a finger at someone else, you had the rest of your fingers pointing back to you. And you saw that and said, you know what, I can do it. Or I could be a part of this. I could step in and be on the front line and say, hey, you know what, this is my story. So I understand your story. So if I understand your story, let's sit down and talk, because what you're going to tell me, I could tell you the same type of story. See, and I think that's where the power comes in with what you guys are doing, because you can speak from a position of knowledge. You can speak from a position of, I've been there. I know. Oh, what you saying to me? Yeah, brother, same thing happened to me. Yep, the same thing happened to me. Yeah, no, I understand you because the same thing happened to me. And so that's where it's key, because you can line up your story with any of those stories that people are talking about. And so now it doesn't become one of those things, man, you can never understand my position. Yeah, I can. You know, Brother Daee, you did over 17 years. All right, Boo, you did it 20 plus years. So it's like, yeah, I know. And so that's why it was so important. And I don't even think, you know, last night the excitement, the other night, the excitement that I had when Boo started telling his story, and I was like, I'm going to stop you right there. I want to have you on the show. And he was like, but hold up. I'm trying to tell you why. I'm like, no, I know. And I know he was looking at the phone like, man, this dude don't get it. But I got it, man. I don't think you understood. You answered a need that I wanted to have on this show. See, people thought that the Voices show was something that I was going to, you know, talk about politics and stuff like that. Nah, when I say we're going to talk about the real stuff, we're going to talk about the real stuff. we're going to get to the real. So first and foremost, on behalf of those people who need this, and from myself, I want to thank both of you brothers for being on the front line. I want to thank both of you, man, for real.
Yes.
And brother, if I could say one more thing, one more thing that's important, and I don't want this to end without saying this. Number one, just to thank and shout out all the people, man, who are doing this work, and it's people that I may not mention their name, and I apologize, but there's a lot of people doing this work, and I know Family Entry in Richmond's been doing this work for a while. You got brothers who are out now that's doing this work, man, like Daryl McGraw, Chino Negron, William Outlaw in New Haven, my mentor Lyle Hassan, Tony Regal, Fred Hodges, and the women, I can't forget them, Tahiba Bain, Alicia Alamo, and there's a lot of other sisters, Louise Harvey. They're out there doing this work, man. If I didn't call your name, I apologize, but I just want you to get the recognition from the grassroots people that you deserve, because they know you. They know your names because you're doing the work with them. And then I want to say two other things real quick is that, number one, Connecticut was ahead of the curve with a lot of things, and then the governor, they cut the budget on a lot of reentry needs. So a lot of people are working on a shoestring budget and just winging it. But we need more funding to go towards reentry resources and things of that nature. And then you have this law of the cost of incarceration that needs to be challenged. If we're going to be a second chance state, then how do you have a law that when a person is released from prison, the cost of incarceration law, they can be released from prison in up to 20 years of their release if they get something, beneficiary of insurance policy, an award from litigation from an injury or a car accident, the state could put a lien on that after 20 years after they release, after they pay their debt, and take money from them. And that same law also puts a lien on people who might have had state assistance, state welfare, cash assistance. If they get an award, the state puts a lien on that. You're taking from people that, where the system was designed, it was built to help people who were in need, and then when something good happens for them, you continue to put them in a situation to be disenfranchised economically. How does that make us a second chance state? We need to address that law. That is a draconian law, and it's antiquated, and it should be done away with as we move more into a progressive future. And then for the brothers and sisters who, I work with a lot of young brothers who've never had a job, and they wonder, like, what could I do? I said, brother, listen, man, or this young sister, the skills that you acquired in the street are transferable to the workplace. Man, most of us could talk the whole lot of a donut. We can sell ice to an Eskimo. So all we need to understand is the skills that we acquired in the street, they can be transferred to the workplace. We just may not use the same technical terms, but understanding, having someone as a navigator who's been incarcerated, who has successful entry, can walk you through the process, build a resume for you, talk to you about how to sell yourself during the interview, and highlight your strengths and stay away from your weaknesses, but be able to address them. And this is why it's important to have people like us in the process. I've seen brothers who never had a job for the first time in their life. I said, brother, the same way you used to take over blocks, man, go up in McDonald's, go up in Dunkin' Donuts. I know it ain't the best job in the world, but go in there and take over Dunkin' Donuts and let them hand you that shirt to say you the manager.
Just to end this with about Script. Script is basically out in Hartford. I'm at 157 Charter Oak Avenue. The 4 phases we deal with. The first phase, we deal with the personal development, psychological detox, emotional regulations, urban trauma, self-compassion. Phase 2, deal with social responsibilities. Whatever you learn about yourself, it's good for you to apply it and then bring back to your family and your community. Phase 3, we're dealing with career development. We are partnering with for job employment, such as one of them is Raveline, who just bought, Sparkles, what they said they wanted me to send them some more guys. And the last part is the expert mentoring. We'll do one-on-ones mentoring after you finish the program. We'll stay with you for over a year or two just to keep it going with you. We had tailored Script into a prevention program as well for the kids who from the ages of 18 to 24. And the last part is just the retention. We do the training for these jobs so guys can maintain their jobs. So sometimes guys come home, they get a job, and then 3 months later, they don't have no more interest in that job. So what we do is we do the training, because a lot of these managers don't understand that what some of the things that these guys do are committed was unpreventable. And so we're trying to, address that so they can maintain their jobs, and so the employee could be, happy, continue to be happy with guys who giving guys second chances. I had a second chance, and I just went through I went through what I had to go through, and I stood in it. Doing my health was bad because of prison life. Friends passed, like Naeem passing on us and getting, cut from your job. So I've been through it, but I'm still here. I don't have no excuse not to be here.
Right. It's inspiring me, and it's motivating to me, because I feel like now there's hope, especially for those brothers. I have endless conversations with people, and I'm always trying to fish around, because I hate getting hit with those questions like, okay, so I have this going on, and I've done this and I've done that. Now, what do you say to that? And I don't have an answer, and it's frustrating to me. And you guys have given me an answer to give when I'm faced with that question. Look, you should reach out to these brothers here, man. This is a program called Script, especially in the Hartford area. Okay, you're in the southern part of the state. Fresh Start Initiative, the Fresh Start program. I could get these brothers in contact with you and others like you, so that all is not lost. But
yes,
they have to understand that there's steps to this. There's steps to this. Let's address a few things, because it's going to come that time where you might miss that fast money that was coming real quick in the streets. You might miss some of that because it might not come as fast now. But what you won't miss is being locked up and somebody telling you your every move as an adult. You understand? You being under the control of that state incarceration system or that federal incarceration system. So what we have to do is, plug these brothers and sisters in to programs like this, and first get their mind right, get them, the proper skills, and not just send them out there, but kind of say, hey, man, we still here. Like, it doesn't end here. It doesn't end with you getting a job. If you want to come back in and talk, if you having some type of struggles, then we still here for you. Now, how often does that happen where, a brother or sister finds a situation, they start living a quote-unquote normal lifestyle, and then it's like they have those struggles, and maybe they come back and say, look, man, I'm battling with this right here. I kind of want to do this, that, and the other. How often does that happen, and when it does, what kind of systems are in place for that?
Yes. I think the most important, that's a very good question, and the most important part of that is having people who were formerly incarcerated as part of and Kenny Jackson designed this thing, man, as part of many years ago, as part of a positive support system, as peer mentors. So when they're going through that, they could pick up the phone and say, listen, brother, listen, sister, I'm going through this, man. I'm having these thoughts. And then they can talk to them about job retention. They can talk to them about, because when we do our pre-release groups, we talk about the art of making a decision, what goes into making a decision. A lot of times we don't think about, when you make a decision, you think about outcome. A lot of times we're not even really making decisions. A lot of times we're just reacting to what's happening to us. And when you begin to talk to people about that and going through that process, and people understanding the art of making a decision and having a positive support system they could call for somebody who already went through that, because a lot of times we keep it 100. Brother might get a job, but if he ain't got no positive support system and something he could tap into and people talking to him about the right things, and you still got stinking thinking, you might get that first check and be like, yo, I'm going to flip this. And next thing you know, you get out the program and you back in the streets because you need that positive support network to say, brother, like, come on now, you done this. This is your third time. Think about doing that. The last 2 times you did that, what happened? You found yourself in the AP room waiting on a bedroll and them taking your sizes for some browns. So if you like they say, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect different results. So you need someone who has the ability to show you the process of how to think about outcome and how to focus on a positive, man, and be able to go through those challenges and help you navigate through that And that's why people who are formerly incarcerated are important to be a part of that process.
And part of that process also, thanks for saying that, Daee, is psychological detox, man, because a lot of guys, they got those things going on in their head, whereas, image factors and, feeling real low because they can't, become, see themselves somewhere, but they're not there yet. So the psychological detox, it just eradicate all of that, what you're not, and make you be happy with who you are and know the process. One thing prison told all of us, and this is a fact, one thing prison taught a lot of us is to be patient. And a lot of guys find themselves getting amnesia as soon as they come home with with the benefits of patience. And this is like with Script, we do like a male initiative group. A male initiative group, it happens once a month. Where all the brothers get together for the support. It's a support group that everybody, lay out what they're going through, what they've been going through, and we're there to address those together. Because I don't care how successful somebody is, they could still go through their trauma issues. And another platform for that, another platform is what Tone and them doing at Chop It Up, on Wednesday nights. Mm-hmm. So there's avenues or platforms that could be handled, something that we never took before, because we know that once we feel it this way, we want to take it back to the streets, all of that, and we see the outcome. And that's not gangster going back and forth in that spot. And we got to be out here, but first of all, to protect our sisters, protect our women. Not to keep on leading them to no brick walls or nothing like that. But that's personal. But when I'm talking about with the program, man, we are open. We could get new recruits. And I thank you for having us on this platform discussing this, man. And Daee, like, they don't know, man. It's a good blessing, man, to just to be home. Like, freedom means something else.
Man,
wow.
It's a blessing.
They asked me 10 years ago. They asked me 10 years before I was coming home. 10 years before I can remember clearly. And they said, yo, boo, what the first thing you want to do when you come home? They said, what the first thing you want to do? Bro, this life, I said, the first thing I want to do is just touch a tree. I was like, what? Touch a tree? Blah, blah, blah. I came home. They sent me to Open Heart. And Open Heart has a program inside of it where there's a lumber yard. And, man, there was a bunch of trees in there. So that was alhamdulillah. Other than that, but big man.
Listen, I want to say this to y'all, man, and I said it earlier. I respect what you're doing. I appreciate you guys, and you guys are a blessing to this community.
Big ups.
You guys are a blessing to this community. And once again, before we wrap up, for those people who want to reach out to first the Fresh Start program with you, Daee, and then the Script program with you, Boo, how can they get in contact with you guys and find out the resources that you have available and dig deeper?
All they got to do if for family reentry is go on the family reentry website, family reentry in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They got offices in Norwalk, New Haven, but Bridgeport, Connecticut on the website. They get all the information, and they should see me up there in what I do now, which is working with hard to engage fathers.
Wow. And for you, Bo?
And for Script,
mm-hmm.
and for Script, they could get on the line too, script.connection@gmail.com. Our Script program, the website.
Wow.
Listen. The website is www.scriptconnect.org. When you spell Script, it's not CRIPP, it's CRIP. And the phone number is 860-400-2488.
Wow. Well, you know what? Brothers, thank you so much for taking this time out on a short notice.
Beloved.
Absolutely. Listen, this won't be the last time that you brothers will be on the show, because I know that there's still more information that has to be disseminated to the people, and I'll be staying in touch with you guys, and I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing the good work, man. All right, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, beloved.
All right, it's Voices. It's Hot 93.7. Keep it right here.